Welcome to Pathways Through the Prairie, the North Dakota State Library's podcast, where we talk with North Dakota librarians and library staff, state government leaders and employees, and interesting North Dakotans. I am State Librarian Mary Soucie. Join us as we meander down the pathways through the prairie. I am joined today by Kandi Shape. Kandi is the library director at the Washburn Public Library, and I have known Kandi for about 4 years, which is how long she has been the director at Washburn. So Kandi, thank you for joining me today.
Yes, hello everyone.
Kandi, the state library's vision is providing pathways to opportunities and knowledge. What was your pathway into the library world?
Actually, it kind of started at age 14. That was my first real job that I had ever had. And I worked for the local librarian in this extremely small town that I grew up in South Dakota. And what she did was drive the bookmobile all around to all the local towns. And I spent that whole summer in what basically amounts to a real dusty one-room little part of kind of like a strip mall almost type. There were several little businesses there. And she drove the bookmobile around all day, and I spent that entire summer cataloging and entering all of the information for everything into what was at the time the brand new computerized system from the old card catalog system. So that's where I started.
Very cool. And you've been at Washburn for about 4 years, and you're from South Dakota originally. What brought you to North Dakota?
Love. A boy.
I love. And so that's what keeps you in North Dakota is love.
Right. Yeah. My boyfriend grew up here, and we met when he was going to college in South Dakota, and then he started working up here. So now this is our home.
I love it. And what brought you to the Washburn Library specifically?
Okay, well, when I moved up here, of course, I had to get my library card right away. So Washburn is where we live. And then there was one summer when I wasn't working, and they had extremely limited hours because the library director had found a new position. And I happened to stop in. I think they were open 2 days a week for about 4 hours each day. And I happened to stop in to trade some books out, and I saw the sign, and I turned in the application, and I ended up getting the job.
That's great. Has there been anything surprising about working at the Washburn Public Library or being a library director?
I think the biggest thing is navigating through just the small town rural community. We quickly learned that a preschool story time was much needed. And then we re-implemented the summer reading program, which had been limited because of COVID and then not having a library director the summer that I was hired. So one of the things with that is you never know if 5 people will show up or 50 people will show up. And now we're getting to the point where next year we may have to offer a second preschool story hour.
That's great.
And just reading it to those people everywhere. Like, you're not just Kandi Shape when you go to the grocery store or the gas station. You're still the library director, and you're going to see everyone you know at those places.
Mm-hmm. Always representing the library, probably getting asked what new books the library has, or what are you reading, or what do you recommend?
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's probably one of my favorite parts about the job, being a book lover myself. And not just in Washburn, but everywhere. I find myself talking to people about what they're reading and what's the new series, and just that connection. Also, I love visiting with people. So.
And a lot of librarians are introverts, although that's changing slowly. You are not an introvert; you're an extrovert. And has that been hard to reconcile? With working in a place that's supposedly quiet? From one extrovert to another.
We definitely have a running joke that there is no shushing in this library. I'm the loudest person I know. I can't imagine If someone comes in and needs to do a Zoom meeting or is trying to research, we respect that, but otherwise we are not an extremely quiet library.
I mean, I've been shushed by patrons, so.
Yeah. I mean, I spend most of the day in quiet and solitude, but if someone comes in, like I said, as long as we aren't disrupting someone else, I don't think anybody runs through there screaming, but can't imagine shushing people when I'm the loudest person I know.
What do you think people would be surprised to learn about the Washburn Public Library?
First off, I'm actually still surprised when people don't even realize there is a library in Washburn. And just the fact that we're also part of the Central Dakota Library Network. So we have access to all of the books in all the small towns around us, plus Bismarck and Mandan. Just things you wouldn't think of, like even the links through the state library, like you can learn a new language, you can look up your ancestry. I think people just think that libraries are a room full of books. So one thing I've noticed when we get new people, they're always surprised by the STEAM kits that we've added.
For people who might not be familiar, what is STEAM?
So we have these kits, and STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And so we have these kits where there'll be a book and 2 or 3 activities or games in each one, kind of centralized around each of those categories. For example, there's a math one that has 2 math games and a book about math in it. Or some of my favorite ones are the science ones with microscopes and minerals and fossils to check out. So just a little bit of everything, really.
That's cool. We have some microscope kits here at the State Library, and we were recently at a STEM event, which is what you just talked about minus the art, sponsored by the Bismarck Larks, which is the college-age baseball team here in Bismarck. And we pulled out the microscopes, and people were having a blast with them. And we got that a lot too. You check out microscopes. We do, and we also check out croquet or ring toss or robots that dance and get sassy with you. And it's always fun to share with people the different things that libraries have and the different things that libraries offer today that we didn't offer, 15 years ago or even 10 years ago.
Right. Well, like I just mentioned, the good majority of people, I think, believe that libraries are just rooms full of books. But what are books about? There are books about everything. Are you into cars? Are you into electricity? Are you, So that's why I think the programming and doing in-person events along with the books just reminds people that that's where it starts, is with reading about a subject.
Mm-hmm. And what's one of your favorite programs that your library offers?
Oh my gosh, my favorite program. Do I have to narrow it down to one?
Tell us one that you love. How about that?
Okay, so when I first started, and I can't remember if this was at a state conference or a national conference, I heard that one of the easiest ways to start programming was by thinking of stuff that you loved growing up and doing. Well, I was involved in 4-H and FFA growing up, so I reached out to the local FFA advisor during FFA week to see if he would want to coordinate some type of an event together. So he has the kids bring in small animals, and then I just grab a handful of books, and we do an event for preschool to first graders. I think there are 5 or 6 classes, and they each class spends half an hour with us, and we split them up, and half of the kids get to look at the animals for 15 minutes. And then I read the other half a story, and then we flip, and then we switch to the next class. So the small animal petting zoo during FFA week is super fun.
That's very cool. And FFA is Future Farmers of America, right?
I'm not sure if it's still known as Future Farmers of America. It may just be the National FFA organization now.
Oh, okay.
I'm not entirely certain about that.
Are they still focused on farming?
I think mostly especially because we live in such a rural agricultural area. But it's not just farming. Even when I was in high school, one of my sisters helped my dad with a huge house remodeling project.
Wow.
And that went towards her special project in high school.
Okay.
Horticulture, flowers, all types of things. I think they branched out now. So I think that's
cool.
when they kind of changed the name from Farmers of America so that it covers more areas.
Mm-hmm. And growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, I was not familiar with FFA until moving here. We were Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and here it's FFA and 4-H. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts too, but 4-H and FFA are much bigger here than they were in the area that I grew up in or that we raised our son in. 4-H, because we lived a little more rural, my husband and I, and so I was familiar with 4-H, but what are some other programs that the library offers?
Okay, also, spring is also one of our favorite times for our preschool story time. We try to run that usually October through May because it's during the winter, especially, that people want to get out of their house for an hour here and there. And so every spring, I just reach out to friends and local community members that have any type of baby animal that you can imagine available. So we brought 2 baby goats in one day. We had a lamb. We had kittens and chicks, puppies, bunnies. So the last couple of months were just a lot of fun bringing those small animals in. And just because we live in such a rural area, it sometimes surprises me that not everyone has had a chance to hold their pet a baby goat,
I don't think I've ever held a baby goat.
Well, you'll never forget it once you do. They're so stinking cute.
That's fun.
I recently had a volunteer help me put together a Harry Potter escape room.
Oh, fun.
Which is something that libraries are kind of doing all over the place. And I think the surprising thing there is you don't necessarily need a maze of rooms. You can we just used one tiny little room in the back of the library, and it worked. So you can make it fit to any size library as well. And all it was really, my volunteer helped put together a list of riddles and puzzles and clues, and that actually was a lot of fun. And we decided to host that, I think it was over spring break. That way school was out Thursday and Friday that week. Let's see what else.
Was that for kids or adults or both?
We set it up as towards 6th grade and over, but we let whoever wanted to sign up, families, groups, whoever wanted to come in. We use Harry Potter because actually, I think Harry Potter came out in the late 90s. So a lot of parents have read those books, and we may have to think about offering an adult one at some point too now.
Sure. And did most people escape?
Yes. Yep. I don't think anybody ran out of time or anything either. But our volunteer was pretty good about giving them some helpful hints once in a while.
Sure.
And then, so we are up to actually almost 30 of those STEAM kits that we were talking about earlier through a couple of grants that I've received over the last several years. And we've also started doing what we call STEAM kit field trips to the library. And how that works, for example, we've had 4-H groups, and then just right before school let out here, the 1st graders and the 3rd graders came in. And we take, just take a handful of the STEAM kits and set activities out on, 7, 8 different tables. And then they split the kids up and they each get so many minutes at each table so that they get a chance to try it all out. And that actually, those kids are going home and telling their parents, and now the STEAM kits are getting checked out a lot more all of a sudden. So that works really well together.
That's super smart.
Oh, Arbor Day. The city of Washburn does an annual tree giveaway with the Forestry Board every year. And so for this probably is the 4th year that we've done this. We hand out trees in observance of Arbor Day right at the library. And this year we handed out poplars and walnuts, and I believe we handed out 45 trees.
Wow.
Yeah, that's always kind of fun. Oh, the downtown book walk. So a lot of libraries across the country even are doing these story walks where they have actual, what am I trying to say?
Pages
like a
mounted.
stand. Yes. Yeah, where they're mounted and you can leave them out in the weather and change them out a few times a year. So we haven't quite gotten that far with the project, but in the meantime, we started doing what we call the downtown book walk, where we just take a couple of pages and hang at local businesses. And you start at the library and just head clockwise down one street of Main Avenue and then come back around the other. And actually, that's been pretty popular as well. We always try to do it in the spring before school gets out, and then we run it through Riverboat Days, which is Washburn's local parade, street dance weekend. And then we try to do one in the fall again, too, before the weather gets terrible.
I love that idea. That's a really smart way to partner with your business community as well.
Yeah, yep. And developing those community partnerships is huge. They're very supportive of the stuff we do, and getting to work with other people. I mean, those community partnerships are exactly the reason that we were able to participate in FFA Week. When we received free Eclipse classes, we shared those with the school. We've showed an outdoor movie down at the park, and we did that with a couple of local groups, actually. The local resource center, Washburn Life, and I think the NDSU extension agent was there too. So that was kind of a fun event. And then just little things. You have to remember to be a part of the community. I think we don't just want to be a place in our community. I heard that many years ago, and I love that saying. And all the support of our local community is what makes us a part and not a place in it.
Mm-hmm. And how big is Washburn?
1,300 people roughly between there.
That's a lot going on in a library that's serving, one of our smaller communities. And I was kind of chuckling when you said, we used a small room in the back of the library, because every room in your library is small.
Right.
But you're doing a ton of stuff to serve the community. Small but mighty. Y'all are small but mighty. And how many staff are in your library?
There are 3 of us. I have 2 part-time assistants that work roughly 3 hours a week each.
And how many hours is the library open?
35.
Wow.
And because our preschool children's story time took off so well, one of my assistants, really, that takes up her whole 3 hours every week, is just helping with that. But it also really proved the need for that kids' story time, and that our parents don't necessarily want to run down to Bismarck every day just to get out of their house for an hour. They want somewhere that they can bring their kids for a quick event.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And just in these conferences that I attend, I get so excited because that's where you hear all these best ideas about all these programs. And once they take off, like the FFA Week event that we do, now I just grab 3 or 4 books and run up to the school for an hour. So it's very easy once you've gotten through these a couple of times. It makes it a little easier each time, I think.
Absolutely. But
sometimes just narrowing down my ideas and realizing that we can't do everything we hear about just because it sounds like fun. That's something that I have to work on personally, I think.
Sure. I think that's something we all have to work on. We can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
But we sure are a lot of things to most people.
Yeah. Well, and mostly, just visiting with people. The entire children's preschool started back up because I had a couple of moms that had asked me. They had a moms group that was meeting, but like I said, that was kind of post-COVID, and there were a lot of people that were sick at random times. So I started that up, and then they said, we're back to meeting in person on that day. Could you do it on Thursday instead? So we did that for a while, and then we had more moms that said, well, more of us can come if you do it on a Monday instead. So just talking to people and learning what works for them is also what makes you successful.
Meeting the needs of your community where they're at.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I had a handful of elementary age kids in the other day, and they asked me if I owned the library. And I said no, and I kind of laughed, and I thought about it for a minute, and I said, well, actually, we all own this library. I never really thought about it like that until they asked me that question.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. It's the community's library.
Yep.
Kandi, what's one of your favorite things about being a librarian?
Getting to dig around it. Well, ultimately, it would have been sitting around and reading all day. It turns out that's not a thing.
No, it's not.
Just visiting with people. I love people and I love books, and I love talking about books with people all day long. I sometimes have to remind people when they ask for help on the computer that's where I have to draw the line. I'll talk to you about books all day, but don't ask me anything about technology.
Oh, that's funny. A lot of libraries do offer technology help, but in the smaller communities, when you're the whole library staff, you can only do so much, and you can only do what you have the skill set to do. Right.
That by far is probably one of the hardest things, is having all the ideas and not all the time, and just realizing that that's okay.
Right. And the budget.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of the programs that we put on really are just people's time, time putting the event together, time reaching out to people. It's not necessarily costing us a lot of money, but I guess some people think time is money too. So, yeah. So you hear about these programs at the conferences, and like one of the national ones that I attend is the Association of Rural and Small Libraries. And you kind of laugh because you'll have someone from Des Moines, Iowa, and you're like, that's a huge city if you've ever been to Iowa. So a lot of it also is figuring out how to take these ideas, like the escape rooms and events like that, and tailoring them to fit your small library and your budget. Absolutely.
Yep. Kandi, what's one of the challenges of being a librarian in a small town?
Well, like I said, the work-life balance, like you're always the library director, which isn't really a problem for me, I guess, but some people like their life to be private, I suppose. But the biggest challenge actually at the library is just planning for events. Did I plan an event on a day when there's something else going on? Is everybody out of town for any reason? Is there a high school sporting event going on that I wasn't aware of? Just not knowing if we have 5 people or 50 people again. Did we have enough supplies if we're doing a craft? Just little things like that, I think, are what make me the most nervous.
Sure.
It's hard to plan when you have no idea.
Absolutely. And whenever I talk with librarians, because I also love to read and I love to learn about new books, I never ask a librarian to name your favorite book, because we can't name just one. But what is a book that you've read recently that you enjoy recommending?
I'm looking at a stack of books in front of me, but I haven't started any of them. I really do like a lot of nonfiction, true crime type books, so that subject matter isn't necessarily for everyone. But when I need a break in my spare time, I also just like to pick up an easy read, what I consider like a psychological thriller. So I did just read, oh my goodness, and now I can't think of the author, but I just read this new book called All the Other Mothers Hate Me. I just for the life of me can't think of that author, but I heard that it's supposed to kind of be as popular as Lessons in Chemistry was. So I was really excited, and I thought it was a really good book.
What is Lessons in Chemistry?
That was Bonnie Garmis. That came out a couple of years back and was wildly popular.
Okay.
Just kind of the same, just a fiction book.
Okay. So Sarah Harman, Harman, is the author of All the Other Mothers Hate Me.
And again, just kind of psychological thriller, murder mystery fiction. What else have I been reading?
Right up my alley.
Kristen Hanna's The Women, actually. And that book is about women's roles in the Vietnam War. And what surprises me the most we also did this for book club recently. And one thing that surprises me is every single person that comes into the library has liked this book, that has read it. And people have such a huge, vast difference of styles and genres that they like. So that was probably the most surprising to me, is that everyone loved this one book.
Those both sound like books that I would enjoy, and I love Kristen Hanna's stuff. I really enjoy her works. I remember years ago when I was working at a public library in Illinois, the book My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult.
Yeah.
At least that's how I say her name. I've heard it pronounced other ways, but that book came out, and patrons had such deep, visceral responses to that book. We had one patron who came in and like threw the book at us, and she's like, I hate this book. And she was like crying, and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? This book. And then, so I was like, what the heck is going on with this book? And then I read it, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's what's going on. It's an older book, but it's one that if you like women's fiction or you like books with a twist, My Sister's Keeper is a good one, and I really that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that book, and I agree. That also is one thing about books, and the fact that the library is free. The fact that you can experience so many emotions and thoughts by reading a book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I believe that was about. Well, we don't have to get into the book, but yeah, that was kind of a harder subject matter that book was about, My Sister's Keeper.
Yep. About family and siblings and parents and medical challenges. So for people who aren't familiar with the book, it's a story about a sister who has some medical challenges, and her younger sister donates, I think it's bone marrow. It's been a long time since I've read it. And then the younger sister says, I'm not going to do this anymore. And it causes a huge rift in the family. And then it's kind of the story behind her decision. And there's a twist in there. But if you haven't read it, if you've never read a Jodi Picoult book, they are emotional and they can be gut wrenching. But I'm like you, Kandi. Right. I love a book that pulls me in and really makes me think and makes me feel. So I absolutely love that. Kandi, it was so fun to talk to you today. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. It was great to learn about all the amazing things that are going on at your small library. You guys are doing so much for your community, and that is super awesome. You really are making a difference in the lives of the people of Washburn. And it was so much fun to hear about that. And thank you everyone for listening to Pathways Through the Prairie. We look forward to talking with someone else and having you log on. Thanks everyone.